And today I'll be talking a little bit about like what are insights within TheyDo, what are the different relationships that are possible, how do personas and insights correlate and connect, and just practically how do you add an insight and what does the insight repository look like. But for that, I will be going into the product itself. So first of all, here again on the right, you can see the insight that I was just talking about as well. So this is the I want to shop quickly. It's a need that customers have. Today we're looking into the journey of a supermarket, because I always feel that it's very relatable. Everybody goes to the supermarket, so that makes it easy. But again, you can see here this I want to shop quickly insight. And what we allow you to do compared to previously is that these insights have this repository, which is what you can see here. It's a repository where all the different insights are gathered that you add to your journeys. I'm starting here, but because I wanted to quickly show you, like, when we see this graph where the I want to shop quickly is linked to a pain and a gain, we can create that hierarchy also within TheyDo. So I can say, okay, I have this pain that I add to it, which is a sub insight then of the I want to shop quickly insight. And also under this specific pain, I have an observation and a quote, which is one of those factual insights that I've added, that I uncovered from my research specifically, and I can add to this top insight. Before I go into detail into what the other insights are, I want to show you that same insight in a journey. So going into the journey, also here, I have the I want to shop quickly insight, and I can open it up and directly see, what are the details about that insight, and again, can see that hierarchy also here. But if I want to actually make that clearer on the journey, like I want to also make it a bit more concrete, I can now highlight one of the quotes and directly have that on the card, meaning that, I can basically make it more concrete, like what is actually happening with these insights. So that's a little bit where we've taken this hierarchy, this atomic research differentiation between the different types of insights, and allow you to create your own hierarchy there. I mean, you can go as deep as you want with different levels, and therefore really building up your evidence in terms of what you have uncovered from your research, and add those, of course, to the steps in the journey. So that is actually then also the first insight relationship that I wanted to talk about. So insights can have sub-insights, and again, can have those parent insights, and you can easily navigate between them by, just clicking on them. You can go one level up here or another level down here, and that way see your pyramid and how the different steps relate. Then within the insight itself, of course, they're added to the journey. The context of the journey is always like one of the most important, because that is actually where you're really representing that customer experience. But they can be added, and I need to quickly look if I can find one that is in two journeys. Well, not directly, but anyway, they can be added to the journeys, and then you can also here see, like, in what steps do I have this insight. So for example, this insight is linked actually to 3 steps, because wanting to shop quickly has something to do with getting items off the shelf, waiting in line to pay, paying for the groceries. These are all steps that actually where people have this need to be able to quickly go through it. So that is the second link that you can have. You have an insight is linked to a step within a journey. And the third one, and maybe one of the most important ones, what I talked about very quickly already before, but is that link to an opportunity. So here you have this opportunity that was uncovered, that was identified because of this and a few other insights. So if I now click on that opportunity, you can see also here the list of insights that actually led to the specific opportunity that you're looking at. This can, of course, be more insights. So for example, for this opportunity, we uncovered a few more insights, and you see them all gathered there so that you can actually, again, trace back even from a solution. You can go back to that opportunity and then see what were the insights that led me to actually, me and my team, to define this specific opportunity. Well, basically, that is the different relationships that insights have. Then in terms of mapping the insights, again, here is, I think where you really want to start with is that research that you have, and some of the other tools like Dovetail are really the tools where you do the insight gathering. You go from the transcript and actually define the insights. But then once you go into the journey mapping, that is really where you start adding the insights to TheyDo. We have the same way of adding insights or creating insights as we've had for opportunities and solutions. So here I can create a new insight, and it will, compared to opportunities, it will actually search in a better way within all the insights that you already have. So there's less chance of a duplicate, and we're even improving this very specific feature of how you're adding an insight to make it even more useful and preventing more duplicates. But let's say I create a new insight right now. We automatically directly create it here, and you can start, well, defining more out of it. It's maybe another need because I created in the need lane, and can of course add the other properties there that I will be talking about very shortly. So that is how you create these insights here. I'll actually delete this one so we don't, because it's not a real insight that we uncovered, but that is where that is. I already showed you how you can add a quote to a card. So let me talk a little bit about like how can you impact that experience curve? Because I think one of the things that we have changed with this is that we will migrate all the persona actions and quotes that were two types of lanes, two types of cards previously within the journey. We will migrate that to these new types of insights. And the reasoning for that is because all the insights might actually have an impact on the experience lane. And obviously, as you have probably already uncovered, these insights are a lot more powerful than the relatively simple cards that were just text cards in the journey previously. Yeah, compared to them, you can do a lot more with insights. We're looking here at the coins are often forgotten pane. I've added all the different properties that you can add to this, but what I want to highlight here is the experience impact. So the experience impact is really what defines what the curve is for the user. So your end customer is defined as a persona. This stays exactly the same as we had before, but now with all the panes added in a certain step that are connected to a specific persona, you can impact the experience curve. So for example, if we say this pane is actually much more problematic for customers, we can put it at -2, and you see that both of these personas that are related to here actually have a worse experience during this step. And that is really how we now work with the experience curve to make sure that everything that happens in such a step automatically adds to the way the persona experiences it. And that is basically the main connection between persona and insight. So every insight can be linked to a persona to really see like, oh, this is the type of persona that actually is experiencing this. And well, you can have one insight also linked to multiple personas. So last but not least, we do have we make a weighted average out of this. I think somebody mentioned this also in the chat before, like, how do I weigh what insight is more important, how customers experience this more important? This is why we added weight. So if we change that, you'll be able to see that actually, oh, this insight was maybe, even though the impact is quite large, relative to the other insights, it's not that much weight. And so you can really have granular control of how you map the insights and map the experience there. I'll also quickly, as a last thing, go through the different other properties, and then we can go into Q&A and see if you have any specific questions. So type we talked about. There is a few standard types that we have. We took those again from like the atomic research methodology. So job to be done or need, bit similar. Then pain, gain. You can add activities, observations, quotes, or trends. But again, as with any types, you can also add a new type if you're an admin and change these as you want. So you can create your own taxonomy also around insights here. Owners, you can set, for example, to define like who's responsible for updating this insight, for researching it further. Well, just, yeah, that's how you can use the owner. Similarly, the status, we have started with assumption validated and invalidated, where we can imagine like you start with an assumption, doing the journey maybe quickly outside in, then start researching like, is that assumption actually true? You can put it then to validate it, and that also then has impact on how you see that. Experience, impact, and personas we talked about. Group is similar to owner, but can then be focused on a team, like what team is responsible for this insight, or what team is this insight important for. Tags you can set like as your taxonomy is already set. And last but not least, we have the emoji to add a little bit more fun and visual interest to the journey, where you can add this like small emoji to add some fun there. Yeah, that is basically the whole feature as we have developed it now. I'll quickly go back to these, and well, maybe last point I can leverage a little bit more and haven't really talked about so much is indeed the repository. Also here you are able to see the different insights, but actually see them underneath each other. So you can really see what are all the insights that we have uncovered that are linked to all the different journeys, and have this repository of all your insights there. You can also see one level of hierarchy within that. So when you look at a specific insight that has sub-insights, you can quickly see what are actually like the observations, the quotes that led to that insight, and have that hierarchy as well. So then I think I've covered all the different steps, and maybe last but not least, very quickly to share the release timeline. We've also communicated this partly through email already, but we have opened early access, so you can request through a form or later in this webinar what you want to have access today. The thing is that because we're migrating persona, actions, and quotes to these new insights, we are taking a little bit of a phased approach to this. So you can request the access, then we will migrate at the end of the day when you request it. Tuesday the 21st, which is in 7 days, we will start migrating all freemium, business, and pro accounts to linked insights. And lastly, there is on Tuesday the 4th of April, we have a final deadline to move also all enterprise customers, but we give a little bit more time to prepare also the team and socialize the change within the company. So that is roughly the timeline. And yeah, I think we can go to the poll, Jeroen.
Yeah, I wanted to wait with the poll a little bit, because the poll will ask you who's ready to move to this new insights feature. So get rid of the persona lane as you know it and start working with this more dynamic, interconnected way of structuring insights. But before we do that, I think it's more fair to answer all of the Q&As that we got. There are no less than 15, and I even saw some come in the chat. Everyone who asked a question in the chat, I kindly ask you to drop it again, but on the Q&A, because then we can go through them one by one, which I'll do now. And Guido, hopefully you'll shed some light on this as well. Thank you for the great demo. I realize that for some this might be moving a bit fast, so let's now take the remainder of the hour that we have to go into your questions, because of course everyone has their own way of working and going about their research. So it's really understandable if you have any questions on this topic, because there's a lot of new stuff here. You've seen plenty of new stuff, so everything is up for debate, and you can ask away. But let's start with the first one.
Well, I think, I mean, a quote typically is something that you've heard somebody say, while an observation, I mean, if we, for example, look here, like an observation might be something that you get from a questionnaire or something that you've seen. So I would say like observation is more something that you've seen. So you see the long lines at the checkout, and then the quote is the checkout time is ridiculous. That is something that the customer has said. But maybe also indeed like what you're asking in on top of that, can you change that? Can you change those types? Yes, you can. So as an admin, you can say like, I actually don't think observations are a type that I want to work with. You can just remove it or change it to a different taxonomy there.
Yeah, and so that's also kind of showing the power of the interview repository here, right? So that you can immediately change that and structure it in a way that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and also, well, as with all the other different repositories here, you can also then, for example, filter on type and say, I want to see all the quotes that that we have in my repository. Or I think I saw somewhere someone asking, can you see all the different factual insights? Well, in this case, those would be quotes, observations, which are the factual ones, and then you can, well, choose those two basically and filter in that way.
Cool. All right. And what would be the next step to this filtering? Like what would the filtering then allow you to do?
Well, that depends on what you're looking for, right? Like within this, of course, yeah, you can get an overview of what people are saying, for example, or what are the facts that I have, and are they already connected to different steps? So, for example, here you see that actually quite a few are not yet added to a journey. So that is probably something that you still want to do, or even the personas. So I think it just gives an overview of where you're at in your repository and allows you to, well, more quickly find the relevant insights that you have uncovered or that your team has uncovered. I definitely understand that question and that use case. Currently, that's not possible, but we will take that into account. So yeah, currently they're definitely directly connected to steps. One hack that I have seen customers use before is to have one phase with a step to have like sort of a general information about the journey step, but that's a bit of a hack. Currently, you can already add opportunities that like more generally to a journey without having it to a step. So it would make sense for us to also enable that for insights in the future. Gonna have to answer in the same way, planned, but not yet in this first version of the feature. Yeah, I think also the question is maybe behind that question, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's also like, how do you do that? Well, from a more like what determines the rate, right? And I think actually there we also want to leave some flexibility to be able to really say like I can actually balance the different insights that I have within a certain lane and where do I want that experience curve to land. And this weight is one, well, extra modifier that you can use in terms of the experience impact. How you determine that, how much is that weight? I think it's a little bit the qualitative art that you uncover from your research, but you could also say like, I actually weight we use as confidence. So for example, how confident am I about this insight? Like that is how much weight I give it. That is one way to, for example, do it. I hope that answers the question at least a little bit. You can actually. So this is a new feature that is basically enabled because of this. I'm not sure whether I'm able to show that very quickly. But let me try, and I'll remove the personas from these. but if you now set this to aggregated, so basically now I have two persona or two insights here. They're empty. One is very positive, one is quite negative. But since I chose aggregated and this persona is actually not part of this journey anymore, you can now, without adding personas, but still adding experience impact to an insight, create a move curve or experience curve that is, yeah, that is aggregated on all the insights without using a persona. So yes, this is now possible.
So basically, if you would customize, i.e. change the name of the lane that says now persona insights to a certain service or product, it would become just that service, and you could measure the impact. Is that correct?
Yeah, for example, I mean, I've experienced this myself where I'm yeah, creating a journey and I'm not entirely certain about the personas yet. Like, let's just create this journey, say like this in general, this has an impact on our customers like this. We don't have specific personas for that yet. You can now, yeah, add them and actually see the curve. So you don't need to necessarily connect it to a persona to be able to see yeah, the experience curve over a journey.
All right. Cheers.
And similarly, maybe to finalize that, also in this aggregated view, we take not only the persona or the impacts that are linked to a persona, but also the ones that are not linked to a persona. So yeah, here it's truly aggregated, all the weighted aggregate of all the values of the different insights in the step.
All right, but if I want to remove the persona from that equation, do I always have to select the aggregate result?
Yes, because otherwise you see the personas, and if there's no persona in the journey, then you don't see, you just see a flat line. Yeah. Yes, we actually only show the attributes or properties when they're filled in, at least on an insight. So in this case, I've added all of them, but I could say like I want to delete the weight, and then it's not taken into account anymore. Yes, yeah, it's what highest on our list in terms of integrations that we're looking into. So I'm actually yeah, looking to speak to customers who are using this right now and what they need from Google Analytics, what types of data we can integrate into the journey. So it's high on the list, but it's still a bit too early to determine a specific date.
Yeah, and I know you hate this question, but can you give us somewhat of a ballpark? Is it going to be Q2, Q3, Q4, or what are we thinking here?
I think we'll probably start working on it in Q2.
We've added Enjoy HQ as an integration to the backlog, but we're not sure when we'll integrate further. That's right, isn't it, Guido?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, in general, we just talked about data integrations, which is related a little bit more to the metrics feature, but also integrations like from Dovetail or Enjoy HQ, where we can pull in the insights from such a repository. That is definitely interesting because, yeah, right now that is still copy and paste work. So that's well, taking away as much of that as possible is something that we want to enable. Yeah. Yes, I 100% understand what he means. And I think, for example, indeed, for like a pane, it makes sense to say, hey, we want to always define a pane like this. So the experience impact needs to be there. A certain tag needs to be there. A status needs to be there. And maybe even in terms of description, we want the person filling in that that insight to follow this template.
Right.
Understand the need, also on the roadmap, also not currently part of the initial feature. Yes, so in terms of tags, those are global, so they work along all different entities across the whole product. But similarly to how type, group, and status is for opportunity and solutions, those are individual to the specific entities. So
is this something we want to show?
yes, that is probably easier than talking about this high level. So yeah, status here is assumption validated, invalidated, and the types are specific to the insights, because like an insight type is very different than an opportunity type. If we go to opportunities, we have the statuses open, solved, and the types we have actually not defined initially, but you can find them there. And basically it's this, where these three, so again, status, group, and type, are specific to the entities, while tags are generic and just an overall taxonomy that you can add to every specific entity.
Right. So basically, it would allow a department or team to filter down what new opportunities they have open, with what kind of, with a certain type of insights at their disposal, right?
I mean, they can again see the opportunities and then see the different insights that are linked to that opportunity. Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I mean, the way I set it up here in this example is indeed that you have like needs, pains, gains separately. Also, you can connect them into one lane. So I could, for example, also have the pains in the same lane if you want to tighten it a little bit. But the way I at least conceptually think of this, and I mean, you can always do this differently. Sorry. You know, life goes in between, right, in the remote world. So the way I conceptually think of it, like different insights actually lead to one opportunity. So an opportunity can be a customer problem that they find, and I think it can be, for example, in this case, you could have, say, like the need, but also two of the pains, and actually a gain, that all combined lead to one opportunity that could be in one step, but of course even over different steps. So it might be that I say like, okay, this whole I enter phase, I have different insights in that, and these insights are clustered in a way where that is my opportunity or my customer problem that I want to tackle right now. So in that sense, like insights reflect the customer experience and how customers are feeling or experiencing the product or service.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunities are then more like one level higher, the generic cluster of what is that problem that I actually want to solve, that opportunity where I want to go and work on. To give a very honest answer, this is a decision we made early on solutions and opportunities. And I think in the future, it makes more sense to make sure that those are the same for all the entities, because they're a bit more higher level. But it is currently how it's technically set up. So yeah, right. We'll fix that in the future, but it's currently how it is. No, the experience impact relates to the insight itself. And indeed, you might have a situation where a different persona has the same insight but experiences it differently. So like for some person, it might be much more have a bigger impact than for the other type of persona. In that case, I recommend to indeed copy the insight and then set them for the persona differently. That's the way to work with that right now.
Keith, you are allowed to talk. If you're still with us.
Hi, yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I guess the question is, we're tracking, looking at from a customer's front end experience with the steps, but actually behind the total customer experience is a back of house process that might be difficult to execute or might have complexity in it. And the experience from back of house, from like a service design approach nearly to looking at it, to actually how do we improve. We do a great job at the user's experience, but actually the back of house process of making that experience happen is difficult or not very good. But actually, how do we get that sweet spot where it's both good for back of house processes and also good from a customer centric point of view? So, and it's looking at where those might come into conflict, or there might be challenges in that to say, okay, we can't do much with that, or we can do much of that, or how does even the back of house process impact the front of house process?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's different ways in which you could do it, where like working with different like personas, for example, you could indicate where, well, if that's a back of house or a customer facing process or customer facing insight. And I think since you can now also link the insights together, I do think you can actually connect, yeah, have the impact there connected. But in the end, I feel like those are, as long as they're in the same step, it kind of indicates that those are related. Although I do realize also that, like, on the service blueprint, I guess what we're talking about a little bit, there is still ways to go for us to enable that to like be even more insightful.
But in the short term, create a persona and then highlight then the experience impact of that persona. So
indeed, persona or a lane, and or a lane.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you can filter on type, but I think what Jonathan probably means is the experience impact. So how much impact does it have? Also currently not yet, but on the roadmap to add to this feature. So to increase the usefulness of this. And similarly for ordering, that would then be the same. So indeed adding like a field here that says experience impact so that you can order and filter based on that. Yeah, in that case, I would say you do say observation quote, and at the same time look at, for example, XL stores. Well, there is no observation or quote for that, but you can combine the different filters to show indeed what
so to narrow down and kind of drill down on specific criteria.
While they link to Jira in the way that you can retrace your steps. So I think I shortly showed that in the journey. It's easier, but when basically the only thing that you can link to Jira at the moment is solutions, because those are really we see Jira as a solution delivery tool. So that's where you push the solution then to a Jira epic or story. But you can retrace your steps or retrace that like chain of evidence basically towards your insights. So I can imagine, for example, a developer looking at the story and saying, okay, where did this actually come from? They first go back to the solution in TheyDo, can then see like, what was the opportunity that the team identified? Why are we doing this solution? And on that opportunity, they can see what the insights were that they got from the research, why they were doing that. So that is the way that they link to Jira, but it's a little bit removed. Yeah, so I mean, like the first step is the same, like that we adding the weight of all the different insights to the opportunity that you identified is also something that is a next step that we want to take. So then you would have that opportunity, you would not only see the pain or like the insights listed here, but also maybe have a customer score, like, hey, if we solve this insight, we increase the customer impact by a certain factor. Although that's a bit of a complex feature to still design. So also in the picture. We have heard that question more as well. Yeah, one of the benefits is like once we have very specific a type of integration like Google Analytics, then Adobe Analytics will be easier, but it will not be so early as Q2, I think. Let me try to answer them very quickly. So import, not yet. Export, also not yet. Both are very logical for us to add very quickly. So we do want to do them, and they're like just that one step beyond the MVP. And Zen Hub, I'm not sure, but we'll definitely make sure to add another vote for Zen Hub if it's not yet on the roadmap. Otherwise, we're putting it on the roadmap.
All right. I'd like to conclude this part of the webinar, at least the Q&A part. And I'm super curious, like if you've seen all this, is this a step up for you? Are you anxious to get cracking with this new insight feature? I'm going to launch a little poll. Please answer, yeah, we're totally ready. Let's go. Or we need a bit more of time. That's also fine. If you're ready, that also means that we'll probably reach out, and especially when you're already an enterprise customer with us, we'll add you to the beta test list. And as Guido already explained, if you're a freemium business or pro user, you will go to this new UI by the 21st of February, right, Guido?
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Oh, from the 60 people, we have 33 respondents, and what 27 have said, yeah, let's go. So that's nice. Adding those to the migration list. And 7 say they need a bit more time, which of course is totally fine. We understand that the invasiveness of this feature might be a little bigger than you're used to have with the upgrades that we're launching, but we think this is a big step forward. So feel free to check out any guides. We'll send a recap of this webinar and the slides via mail. What do we have left, Guido? I think we have 2 minutes on the clock. Is there something you'd like to add?
I think what you just said, indeed, we have the guides are up now as well, where you can find more of this information basically in detail, which our fantastic colleague Caspar has written. And if you're yeah, I definitely also recommend talking to Caspar or Martin if you're in touch with them regularly to see like how to get to this insights feature, so that we can enable that as quickly as possible for you. Cool.
All right. Well, final request from the marketing side of things. If you enjoyed this webinar, but moreover, if you enjoy TheyDo as an overall platform, you know, our baby that we work so hard on and diligently every day, then let us know. We really appreciate that. Of course, we are talking to lots of you, but it's also to show the outside world your honest opinion on what you think of us. And the best way to do that is by leaving a review on G2. I've dropped a link in the chat. You would do us a great favor if you could fill that one out. I guess that concludes the session for today within the hour. I hope you have a great day, and yeah, feel free to start playing around with the insight feature, which you will have as soon as you have enabled the feature. If you're not on the waiting list yet, please check out the blog, and you can fill out the form with your organization slug, and we'll make sure you get enabled with this feature as soon as possible. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.